Ciao and welcome back to my channel where we explore how to develop your soft skills and create the life you desire. Today we are going to talk about goal setting, but not generic goal setting. I want to explore the huge mistakes that people make unknowingly and that leads them not to achieve the results that they want also when they put in the effort. So have you ever, for example, worked very hard towards a goal and that time you were very proud because you were doing everything that you had put in your plan, you were sticking to it, but then in the end you still didn't achieve the goal? If that's the case, keep watching because we're going to understand why that happens and how to make sure that you apply a very powerful technique in order to change this mistake. Let's say that your goal today is related to working out. What motivates you more? My goal today is to work out for 1 hour, or my goal today is to work out and finish all the exercises in my plan. Or let's say that your goal is about reading. What motivates you more? My goal is to read 1 book this week, or my goal is to read 30 minutes every day. Now, why did I make these examples? Because they show us that there are 2 kinds of ways to phrase a goal that can have a different emotional impact on you. Maybe when I made those examples, there were some versions of them that sounded better for you. Others that didn't really motivate you much. The difference there is that some of the sentences I said were input goals, others were output goals. What's the difference? Input goal is the goal that focuses on what input you want to put. So what is the action that you want to take? For example, I want to read for 30 minutes every day. I want to work out for 1 hour. I want to study for 25 minutes. Output goal is a goal that's focused on the outcome that you want to get out of the time that you put in. So for example, I want to finish all the exercises in my plan. I want to read 1 book per week, or this week. I want to study 30 words per day. The interesting thing is that it is true that everyone is more motivated usually by one or the other. The problem is that using only one to phrase your goals is wrong. So maybe you have followed your SMART goals, set them in the best way for you, you've tried to be disciplined, but reality is that if your goals are not input-output goals, but they only use one of the 2, they are very risky. Why? Think about this. If you use only an input goal, so only the time that you want to put in, so I want to study for 30 minutes, work out for 1 hour, or whatever, it is true that you feel at peace. Your conscience feels okay because I've done my part. But that doesn't guarantee that at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you will actually have achieved the result that you wanted. On the other side, if you have only output goals, so I want to read 1 book this week, or I want to study 30 words this day, what happens? That at times there may be certain books that are harder than others, certain words that are harder than others, certain workouts that are harder than others, and so it's not always easy to stick to it. And when you don't stick to a goal, you know what's the most dangerous thing? It's not that you don't achieve what you had to achieve that goal, but that you start doubting yourself. You start feeling that you haven't stuck to your word, you haven't been consistent, and sense of guilt doesn't help you the following day to start with the same energy, but actually makes you feel that you are behind with your plan. So what do we need to do? We need to understand how to use the power of input goals and output goals, combining it. In order to do it, I'm going to tell you a series of steps that you can follow. The example that I'm going to make now is about a weekly goal, so something that you want to achieve this week. But you can do the same also for goals that are bigger. So maybe you have your New Year's resolutions and you have somewhere where you want to be at the end of the year, then break it down until you get to a month and a week and you apply this technique there. Okay, so think about this. My goal this week is to read a book that is 200 pages long. So the first step is to understand what your output goal is. So my output goal for the week is to read this 200-page book. At this point, what do you need to do? Second step, you need to ask yourself, in order to read this 200-page book, what do I need to do every day? So we could say 30 pages per day. But here, for example, is the first mistake that people make, because maybe you have certain days that are harder than others, or maybe a weekend you want to relax. So I would suggest you to keep a 2-day cushion. So establish the number of pages that you want to read daily based not on 7 days, but 5. At this point, we move on to step 3. Step 3 is understanding what is the minimum input you can put in every day. What is the minimum amount of time that you are sure that you can invest and dedicate every day? Maybe you say, okay, I can actually read 30 minutes per day. Whatever it is, you write it down or you think about it and you select your minimum daily input. At this point, you need to check because it may be okay or it may not be okay. Something may need to be adjusted. Input and output need to be pretty much aligned. So either you realize that you can add more time in your daily input and so you make that time in your diary, or what do you need to do? You need to lower your final outcome. So the outcome that you want to achieve will not be anymore a 200-page book, but it will be less. Because you cannot start and already knowing that you will fail. Your motivation, of course, will go down when that's the case. You need to have something that, even though it may be a bit challenging, it is achievable. No one wants to set themselves for failure directly, okay? At that point, though, it is not over yet. Why? Because initially, unless you've already got references of how long it takes you to do certain things, everything will be kind of a guess, okay? So, okay, I want to read at least 40 pages per day. I think that it will take me 40 minutes, okay? Okay, what happens next? Day one comes. You have only one rule, and this for my clients had made a huge difference. In the moment in which you start your action that day, you can go to bed either if you achieve your input or if you achieve your output. What does it mean? If you have decided after all your readjustments that you can either do 40 minutes per day, or, so your input is 40 minutes, or your output is 40 pages. So option one is you go to bed because you have read at least 40 minutes, regardless of your output. Option two is you get to 40 pages and then you can go to bed. Either or work, but at least one of them needs to be met. So if you're reading and that day you're reading very fast because it's something that is really fast to read for you, so you start reading and what happens that after 20 minutes or 10 minutes you have actually achieved 40 pages. What do? Even though you haven't read your 40 daily minutes, it's fine because your output has been achieved. On the other side, if that day you start and you read for 40 minutes, but when you reach your 40 minutes you realize that actually you've only read 20 pages because you were very tired, it was very hard and so on, that's fine anyway, you can stop there. So this is what really needs to change in your approach. So by doing this, you will realize that your motivation will keep up because you know that it is achievable, but at the same time it will help you get closer to your final goal. Then after a day or two you need to double check, because if you saw that, for example, every day actually you reach your output goal of 40 pages in 15 minutes, and if you actually say I can put in 40 minutes, then what does that mean? It means that maybe you can increase your output goal. So in 40 minutes maybe you can put, okay, listen, I can read either 40 minutes or 60 pages. Okay, so choose. Feel free to do the adjustments that you need to make, but make sure that you respect this either or rule, because if you know that you can go to bed if you've done either one or the other, you feel allowed to perform better when you have less time. For example, you feel allowed to invest a bit more time when needed. You just know how to tweak things in order to reach your final goal without needing to feel guilty. And this is very important as a human being, because in the moment in which you feel guilty, on day one it can also motivate you to push harder. But after a few days, your vital energy just goes down. And when it goes down, it's very hard to get back up from there. So, apply the either or technique. Here, you're going to see now the recap of the steps. Follow them. If you have questions, I know it's a bit complicated if it is the first time, so if you have questions, just reach out and I will help you to plan it and to do it yourself. But apply this technique because it's going to make sure that instead of just setting goals or taking actions and then feeling disappointed because you haven't achieved what you want, you actually find out how to reach what you want, and most importantly, how to get to understand how you work in the process of achieving what you want. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.